Hello and welcome back to another episode of my MotoGP 23 career mode, and today we're here for the 5th round of our full Moto3 season for the French Grand Prix. Now, if you didn't see the last episode at the Spanish Grand Prix, I do recommend you go check that one out because it was probably the most topsy-turvy, unpredictable race that we've had of the entire career mode, so you really are missing out if you haven't seen that one. Also, that episode does cover the America's GP because there was some issues with the recording, so I talked about what happened in that race in that one as well, if you're wondering where that was. But coming into this round, we now have a new rival, Jaume Masia. We had an additional objective to beat him back in Austin, but now he is our full main rival. Since we have defeated Riccardo Rossi, I believe we've now got to beat Masia since he is the top Honda rider. Going into the French Grand Prix, I'm not 100% sure how we're going to do. I did do a little test, and the AI do seem a lot better than they did there last year, so it's not going to be a cakewalk or anything like that, which I was kind of, in a way, hoping it would be, because we've had a pretty tough season so far. But it does make a much better video if it is a proper hard race. So without any further ado then, let's head into the weekend, and I'll see you after free practice. So then, at the end of free practice 2, you can see we've ended up in 9th position, which isn't the best in the world, but actually not too bad. I think all the times ahead of us were simulated, so that is pretty good. I did seem to find a way that stopped that from happening so much in this session. The reason why there is some in front of us was because I ran out of fuel at one point and it put me back in the pits, and I'd actually dropped down to 17th place at that point. I did improve by a decent margin, but what I actually did was just press skip to qualifying on the weekend management screen, and I didn't drop any further back, so maybe that is a way to get that to work. So that's something I might actually try in qualifying, skip to the race, and see if it stops the time simulation. But we have got a pretty difficult weekend ahead of us because qualifying is dry, but the race is going to be wet. So qualifying might be a little bit pointless for us because we'll probably end up finishing towards the back anyway. So I may as well head into the qualifying session now and try my absolute hardest to get a good starting position. So here we are then in Q2, and you can see we didn't move any further down the order in FP3, so that's always good. Masia, of course, in this session, as you would expect, since he is a top flight rider. But coming through Q1, we've got Fenati, Bertelli, Onshu, and Kaito Toba. So both the 658 bikes are in this session now, both of the snipers as well, which I don't think is something we've seen this season in real life so far. But we'll go with our normal combination of medium soft. I will just quickly show you that it is set to rain in the race, so that's why we're going to probably struggle a little bit. Even if we qualify on pole position here, I think we will struggle. Although I do plan on turning the AI difficulty down for the race just because I know it's going to rain. And the AI are clearly overpowered in the rain, so I think I might turn them down by like 10% or something and see if that helps us out a little bit. Because we're not seconds off, well, I suppose we are seconds off the pace, but I think with a few percent off, we should be able to maybe compete. But again, it's a bit of an experiment to see how we get on. I know I said I'd stop talking about the AI difficulty so much, but with it being obviously the wet conditions, we got very lucky in Jerez that the race did actually dry up because that allowed us to get a good result. But if it had been wet all the way through, we'd have finished last by absolutely miles. So we have got to stop doing something. In the previous games, I've kind of just put up with it because you've also had rounds where you've dominated quite easily, but that's just not going to be a thing on this game by the looks of it. So I'm going to just try and balance it so that I'm competitive at every track and in every condition, of course, as well. Now, the time we did in practice, it was a 43.3, but that was a really, really good lap, so I actually don't expect to get near it, to be quite honest, in qualifying. Happens a lot where I do a really good lap in practice, probably because I spend a decent amount of time in practice usually, just to try and get up to speed on the track, and to make sure I'm definitely through, especially when like I've done a stint and I'm like, alright, okay, I'm time to improve, there's a bit of free time on the table with a fresh tyre in, and then they simulate their times and I need to find a second all of a sudden. It's a bit of a pain. But here we are then, coming into the last couple of corners. I have noticed that the track limits are a little less harsh on this track. I mean, in general on this game anyway, I think the track limits are a little bit broken compared to the last one, but they do seem very, very lax in a few places on this circuit that previously definitely would get you. What is going on there? Forsato goes through the grass. I tell you what, I saw Fenati do that in practice as well, so I think there might be a bug at that corner where sometimes they go through the grass. I don't know whether maybe it's like because they're saving a crash or something. But out the last corner, up towards the line, we'll do this lap first, then talk about it a little bit more. 43.9, so actually, to be fair, a pretty decent lap. But what I was going to say is, they seem to have tried to stop the AI crashing by giving them more front-end grip when they fall off. I think that's why we don't see so many AI crashes now, because of course, in the other games, they crash on the curbs like constantly, because they just lose the front or whatever. But from what I've seen now, I've seen some AI saves in this game, and it almost seems like once the front tucks, it grips back up, and that stops them from falling over, and usually they can then pick the bike up and carry on going. But sometimes I have seen it where it just grips up so much that it just makes them spear right or spear left, depending on whichever way they've lost the front. And that just results in them going off the track. It's actually what happened at Austin. There was a couple of crashes at Austin, which is unfortunate. Again, I couldn't show you. But Sasaki and Suzuki both had a strange crash, but they sort of lost the front. And it's kind of like the Simoncelli crash, really. The bike just sort of came back around into the circuit, but then they ended up falling off as they were about to run off the track on the other side, because I think they probably just grabbed the brake or whatever to stop themselves running off the track. But it was very, very strange. So I was under in the first couple of sectors, threw it away a bit of garage there. We're right in touch. It's not going to be quite enough as we got towards the line. Bit of a wheelie to roll out the throttle. It's going to cost me a bit of time. So another, actually not quite a 43.9. I was about to say it's another 43.9, but it was a 44.0. So currently P4, but behind Foressato. So that is dangerous. The other AI are probably improving. And I've invalidated my lap as well. So back to the pits for me for a new set of tyres, because of course we don't need dry tyres for the race. So we may as well just keep throwing tyres at it. You see Holgado there with the 43.3. Those were the kind of times that the top AI were doing before I ran out of fuel in that practice session. So I think that is basically the times they're capable of. So if I can find a bit more time, I can really start up there this weekend. But of course the race is going to still be wet, so it's going to do me over a bit. I did actually consider using a used tyre again this time, just in case it somehow does dry up in the race, but I don't think it's going to. It only had the sort of the wet cloud, didn't have the dynamic weather, so I think it will just be a fully wet race, unfortunately. A bit like Malaysia was, although again that was actually supposed to dry up, it just didn't. So this will be our first fully wet race, and I feel that will be even more of a disadvantage. Dennis on Chu currently on pole position, although again I don't know if part of his time would have been simulated because I was in the pits. But he does seem to have woke up on the right side of the bed this weekend, because he's kind of not been anywhere all season so far. So in a crash for Salvador, it does look like he is down at that corner where they were running on the grass earlier. I was having a little look on the minimap there, which is why I made a mistake. So I think there is some sort of bug there. Wow, we've got a bit of a train of riders behind us. I had no idea here. I'd say I'd get out of the way, but to be quite honest, I think they're going to hold me up if I do. So we've got another attempt here. We've got about 5 minutes left to go, so I think this probably will be our last run. I don't think we're going to get another in-lap and out-lap done. So Holgado's rejoined from the pits right in front of us. We've been hit a bit there by Moreira, and that's our lap gone. This is why I didn't want to be around the AI, because they obviously hold me up a lot when I'm trying to do a clean lap on my own. Well, I've got Holgado and Moreira in front of me now. The two of the titans of the championship. The only one missing really is Ortola. So to be fair, sitting behind them by a little bit probably isn't the worst thing I could do. Although Moreira is currently P12, so he's struggling quite a bit here. We actually have an opportunity to make points upon him. You know what, actually? Where is Ortola? I don't think I've seen him on the timing screens like at all. So maybe he's like P4 and I just can't see him because of that. But if he's not P4, then he's a bit further down the order. Same with Masia, really. So Foressato's crashed. Okay, so I think we're going to see it first hand here. So Holgado went pretty wide through that corner there, and he almost ran through the gravel. And I think what we're probably seeing here is that some of them are actually sort of crashing from that. And I don't know what's happened in front with Moreira and Holgado, but they were sort of steering into each other, almost as if Moreira wanted to go in the pits. But because Holgado was staying out, it blocked him from doing so. Very, very strange, but at least we've got a little bit of a toe on this lap, so let's see if it does help us improve. Well, I've passed Holgado. We're under by quite a bit. We should get a bit of a slipstream here off Moreira, which will help us out. But then Holgado will probably come back at me, which is the problem. Towards the line, we are half a second under. P3 on the grid, 2 tenths off of pole position. So 43.3, very similar to what we did in practice, to be honest. As much as it helped having Moreira as a bit of a slipstream there, he made the mistake into that corner again, and I had to go on a weird line to avoid him. It might have cost me a couple of tenths of a second. Then I think I probably pushed a little bit too hard in the penultimate corner to make the time back up. But the front row provisionally here, I'll take that one. Although Munoz is on 3 red sectors currently, which is a scary prospect. I think he might push us down potentially. Well, unfortunately for us, because we did our time so close to the end of the session has ended. Again, Holgado has made that same mistake. So I'll tell you what, if that's something they also do in the race, it does give us half a chance. We're going to try and go in the pits manually just to see, because I've tried crossing the line plenty of times with 0 seconds to go and it doesn't stop the simulated time. So we'll go into the pits and see if that actually ends the session, or actually we're going to cross the line, aren't we, in the pit lane? Although, actually, it hasn't ended the session for us. Oh, no, it has now. Well, actually, that seemed to work. Going through the pits seemed to stop the simulated times, because there we go then. Dennis Onchu is on pole position for the French Grand Prix. A bit of a shock, although it shouldn't be an IO bike being on pole position. It definitely should be the kind of thing that he's doing a bit more regularly. The Red Bull KTM Tech 3 bike in second place of Holgado, and ourselves on the front row for the first time since the first round of the season at Portimao. Now, I must say, it is one mixed up grid because we've got David Salvador right behind us, Romano Fenati, then David Alonso, then Kaito Toba, and then it's Masia all the way down in 8th place. So some of the people that we expected to be up there a little bit more are struggling. Agi in 10th place there as well. Munoz down 14th, 15th for Riccardo Rossi. And I was absolutely right, there is no Ortola in this session. So Ivan Ortola, the championship leader, is not even into qualifying 2. So he's going to be starting at least 19th place on the grid, which is pretty incredible. So anything could happen now going into this race. This is the opportunity for myself to make up some serious points in the championship. Although Holgado is going to be the better factor because he's P2 right now. Probably got a very good chance at the win when you look at who he's against here. He's got to be Onchu, myself, Salvador. My money is probably on Holgado there. So Holgado could gain 25 points back on Ortola, which would completely flip this championship. So then, here we are down on the grid for the French Grand Prix, looking at Danny Holgado there in second position. And as I said, I have turned the difficulty down a little bit, so we will see how it goes. I wouldn't be surprised if we still drop back through the order. I don't think it's going to be a case of we now dominate because the AI just have such an inbuilt advantage in the wet. And to be honest, they were pretty handy in the dry at this circuit anyway. But at least we are at the front of the grid. Maybe that will help us. If we get a good start, we might be able to get a bit of a clean run through some of the corners and not get beaten up so much. But we did see in Jerez that we slowly sort of dropped back through the pack. But again, I suppose there is a lot more positions for us to lose this time. So potentially we could still hold on to something. But without any further ado, let's get this race started and let's hope we can do something special.
It's the French Grand Prix and all the riders are lined up on the grid. In a few moments, the lights will go out and the Le Mans race will begin.
So then Onchu on pole, Holgado second, myself in third position. We actually have the wetsuit on this time as well, which is always nice. The lights are on, waiting for them to go here for the French Grand Prix. Lights out and away we go. And our initial jump hasn't been too good off the line. Although it's not been too bad either. I don't think Salvador has quite drawn alongside us. He has now. But once again, a little bit of a strange grid. Like we were saying before, Fenati right behind us. We go through the first corner. Oh, I took that way too quick. The front end couldn't take that one. But I think we might have found our way. Well, never mind. I was going to say we found our way back past Salvador. However, briefly that was. It was immediately undone. You can see Masia on the outside there. Both Leopards, actually. Fenati trying to hang out on the outside there as well. Toba was too. And we've overtaken all of them back up into P4. So once again, behind David Salvador. So Holgado, can he try and find a way past Onchu? I think he should be able to, obviously with the performance he's shown so far this season. And we're actually up the inside here of David Salvador. So up into P3. So maybe the AI are a little bit too low now. But again, it is only lap 1, so there's still plenty of the race still to go. And of course, we did get a bit mugged off in the first couple of corners. I'm sure this is going to be Holgado's first real opportunity down towards the chicane. He's got the slipstream, he's alongside, he's made the pass. So one Red Bull bike overtakes the other, well, another, as it is two different teams there. Although I suppose they are kind of like sister teams. We've made a bit of a mistake. And we've actually got a track limits warning, and you know what, fair enough, because we definitely cut the corner there. We definitely deserve one of those. Unfortunately, it didn't cost us too much. It does make me wonder whether they will go off at that corner again like they did in qualifying. I guess we'll find out. I've kind of hit Dennis Onchu at the back there. I'm really looking aggressive to try and pass Onchu here. We start to sit behind because there's no way I was going around the outside there. Not in the rain anyway. Green flag behind. So there must have been a crash a bit further back in the pack. We made a bit of a mistake down through La Chapelle, trying to go around the outside of Onchu. It's allowed Salvador back through. We should have the run on Salvador here because we obviously come from wider. We've picked up the power a bit earlier and we should have him into Museum. So back up into P3 again. So it seems like a holding station here for now. But unfortunately, we're not making any forward progress, although Salvador's now at the inside, so maybe we are starting to drop back a little bit. So it doesn't seem like we've got too much of an advantage in these conditions or anything like that. And Holgado checking out already. And we're looking at the inside again of Onchu into the garage there. And unfortunately, we've still not been able to do it. Can we accelerate early? Not quite. So Onchu still has the position for now, but maybe we can get him now in the slipstream. We should have the advantage down towards the chicane because we have got that better braking ability. And there we go. Up into P2 then. Holgado up next. We could potentially have a win on our hands here at Le Mans in the rain. It's the fastest lap of the race then to me, 51.6. So even with the pass on Chu and the battling with Salvador, we still were lapping quicker than everybody else on track. So we do seem to have the pace here, although maybe it is because the AI difficulty perhaps is a little too low. We'll have to evaluate when we get a bit further into the race, but we're not easily doing this. I'm still pushing, and Holgado is still stretching away, so it could be about right. Because, let's be honest, this is the first time really we've started this high up, aside from our first race of the season where we were still learning the game quite a bit. Quick update on Masia watch anyway. We've got 24 points over him in the championship if it ends like this. So that's looking pretty healthy. That would mean a solid couple of rounds. Should guarantee us the position ahead of him, although it is 3 more rounds after this, so I suppose we would want to still keep beating him fairly regularly throughout. Still not sure where Ortola's got to. Would have expected him to have made his way up a little bit more by now, although I suppose it has only been 3 laps, and I can only see the top 8, so maybe we'll see him in a few laps, or maybe he's just having a bit of an off weekend. I know it is possible in this game, that I think it's scripted that some weekends they do struggle, so we will see. I can feel like a lot more of this game is controlled. But speaking of riders making their way through, Moreira has made his way up to 3rd position now, so he could be the man on a charge. In fact, he's the man up our inside here. He's side by side with us. I think we've got him for now. So Holgada's still holding firm. I definitely close up to him at some parts of the track, but at others, he's definitely quicker than me. So I think this is quite a balanced race so far. But you can see Moreira is pretty close to us now. I think Moreira's doing a bit of an Ortola from Portimao. I think he's going to sort of overtake everybody after coming from a little bit further behind. And there he goes. Although we've got him back because he wasn't really on the ideal line. But too much scrapping will allow Holgado to get away. They're through La Chapelle once again. The bike's still sliding. And we're going to cost ourselves potentially the position there to Moreira. It's up the inside again just like he was on the previous lap. But I think again we should have it with the earlier application of the throttle, obviously taking a bit more of a sweeping line. It's not really intentional. I would rather ride the apex down there, but the bike is just sliding from underneath me in these wet conditions. So we're actually under our lap time here. We've made a bit of a step from Moreira, and we're all over the back of Holgado. But to be honest, the thing is I close up to him right here, and then from this point of the lap I can't really overtake him. He's pretty much quicker than me through the rest of the lap. My 2 overtaking opportunities really are garage there and the chicane, to be quite honest. So I need to make sure I'm actually in a position to try and pass him through one of those 2 corners later on in the race. Well, ideally as soon as possible, but you don't want to make your move too early. And I have noticed in this game sometimes, as soon as I actually overtake the AI, I do struggle a bit more because I've been so used to following them. It's good to actually have competitive AI. I mean, I know I've been struggling a little bit, and obviously I've been messing with the difficulty, and this race is an example. But if you think back to my previous career modes in Moto 3, they've just been whitewashes. They've just been so easy to win, so you know, I'm really enjoying just a different challenge on this game. They've done a great job. Moreira actually has the fastest lap of the race now as well. I hadn't noticed that before. I know I had it previously, but Moreira with a 51.5, and we've made a big mistake through Museum. That's surely going to allow Diogo through. It has indeed. Fortunately though, there's a big gap back to Dennis Onchu, so Onchu hasn't been able to get through, but we might be able to get Moreira back into garage there. Yes, we have. So back up into P2, and to be honest, we're pretty much in the same position as when we left the circuit. We actually haven't really lost much time on our personal best either, so overall, considering that was quite a big mistake, we didn't really lose out from it. Right, we are starting to hassle Holgado a bit more now. I think I'm feeling the pressure of Moreira being behind us, so we do need to try and make the move on him, I think. Here comes Moreira, he's got the run onto the straight, and this could be curtains because they are better than me through this next section of the track. So Moreira, in fairness, has pulled the pass. We're going to try and go around the outside of him through Dunlop. That's risky. I think there could be a collision into the chicane, knowing that AI of old. Oh, to be fair, he left me enough room. There was a bit of a touch there. But to be honest, that was because I tried to leave him probably more room than he needed. It put me on the curb, and then the bike just ran wide. But tell you what, let's give Holgado a pretty healthy lead now. Still a nice lead back to Dennis Onchu, although actually he's put it down to 7/10 there, so that's not quite as nice. Must say, it's still weird though, seeing this order is quite jumbled up, just like it was in qualifying. Obviously the top 2 are pretty normal, and myself being up here is a common occurrence at this point, I would say. But Ortola still being nowhere. We've got Onchu's, I think he said Salach. Salvador. I just saw Sal and just thought Salach, especially, well, he's not even in Moto 3. He's not been in Moto 3 for a while, has he? So, I don't know why I was thinking Salach straight away. But yeah, it's not quite the order that we've been used to at this end of the field. Neither of the CF Moto bikes, they're usually up here as well. So that should help us out in terms of the championship against Artigas. I've not been able to repass Moreira, but to be honest, that's probably for the best, because we'll give him a chance, see if he can do anything to Holgado, because of course we've been sat behind Holgado since the beginning of the race, virtually, since we overtook on Chu very early on, and we've not really been able to pull anything on him, so maybe if Moreira tries something and holds him up a little bit, we could try and capitalise. Maybe that could be our way through. No one's made the mistake into the right-hander at the end of the lap yet in this race, so it seems to be just a dry weather thing, or maybe just a free practice thing. Moreira really isn't making much headway here. We need to try and pass him, I think. Although it's pretty difficult to pass these top guys, but maybe we could do him into the chicane if we get a good exit out of garage there, but I just don't think we're close enough there, because they have a massive advantage actually in a straight line, and he's also got a slipstream, so that negates the slipstream I've got off him. And yeah, we're just not going to be close enough to pull the pass here, I don't think. I could maybe have risked that if it was the last lap, but it wasn't worth a crash. But we are getting towards the last lap actually, only a few laps to go. There'll be 3 to go as we cross the line. He does seem to close up to Holgado in this section, just like I do, so maybe this is Holgado's weaker section of the track, is that section there. These two are beginning to drop me a bit now. I'm on a personal best lap, but they got the gap to just over a second very briefly. I think this is definitely going to be a new fastest lap of the race from one of us three anyway, because we've closed back up to them a bit. So we've scoped up again through this last sector. I think maybe it looks closer through this section because it's a bit slower. That maybe is what it is. We are going to improve our lap time a little bit as we come up towards the line. In fact, it is the new fastest lap of the race, so I actually did go a little bit quicker than them on that lap, even though they did drop me a little bit in the first sector. But penultimate lap time now, Moreira is looking a bit more feisty. So we're right on the back of Diogo now. Surely we need to try and make the pass here before the end of this lap, so that we've got the whole lap to try and pass Holgado. Track limit's 1 in there, to be fair. I did again go on the green, so that's number 2 of the race for us now. But I suppose that does mean we've got 3 to go on the last lap, so I think we should be okay. They gapped me out the last corner, which is obviously something worth noting, because if I try and pass them into the last couple of corners, they should be able to drag me to the line. But Moreira looks like he's going for it round the outside of Holgado. Moreira, as we start the final lap, finally makes a move for the lead. Holgado back up the inside. Are they going to hold each other up as we go in towards the Dunlop chicane? Here we go, we've got the run. Here we go, down towards La Chapelle then. We've made lots of mistakes in here in this race. Got to try and just carry the speed through around the outside, not lose too much time. We're under by a decent amount here, so it does seem to be working. We did seem to do that a little bit better, but we're on the curb here. That's probably cost me. I'm not going to be able to attack into Museum. We should be close enough to maybe attack into Garage there now. This is it. 3 riders absolutely gunning it for the victory. 4 seconds clear of the chasers behind. And we're looking at the inside, but we're just not close enough to pull a move there on Moreira without blowing our chances of beating Holgado as well. Because really, we can't cost ourselves too much time, because I want to win this race. Second isn't much better to me than third, to be quite honest. I know for championship points it is important, with Ortola just moving up into the top 8 there as well. But down towards the chicane, I did say I would risk it on the last lap, and I have absolutely done that around the outside of Moreira. Can we just about keep it on the circuit? Yes, we can. Moreira tries to hang it around the outside, but I think we have stopped ourselves from beating Danny Holgado now. Moreira's back up the inside, down towards the penultimate turn. We're going to be side by side with Diogo. We've cut him up a little bit there. We've lost the rear a little bit on the entry. Diogo back up the inside, so it's going to be P3 here in the French GP at Le Mans. But what a race that was. Really, really good scrap at the end there. Nothing more I really could have done there, to be fair. I tried my absolute hardest. I'm a little bit glad that we didn't win the race, because I wouldn't really have wanted my first win to have come at a race where I've turned the difficulty down just to try and make it a bit more balanced, because I would have felt like maybe I'd misdone the balance there and made it a bit too easy. But honestly, that was a really good race. I think for future, I think turning it down by 10% in a wet race compared to the dry, I think that is a good idea. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below of that one. But a really good race there. Holgado takes, I think, his 2nd win of the season there, with Moreira in 2nd place. I take my 2nd podium of the year in 3rd, but we had absolutely gapped the riders behind. Dennis Onchu, Salvador, Toba, Masia, absolutely gapped them, so we really were with the front runners today. Ortola does bring home a P8 there, so he does salvage some decent points, but even still, this is going to be the first time this season we've actually gained points on Ivan. So in the Riders' Championship then, Holgado takes the lead, so it is matching real life a little bit more now, with Daniel Holgado leading the championship, 10 points clear of Ivan Ortola in 2nd position. Diogo Moreira only a further 2 points behind in 3rd. Then a bit of a gulf back to us, 32 points, as we are 44 down on the leader there in 4th position. Artigas moves down to 5th, and Masia moves up to 6th place there. So it probably is worth looking at Masia's points throughout these next few races as well, because of course we do need to be ahead of him by the end of the German Grand Prix. As for the Teams Championship then, we actually stay put where we are, but there is once again a change at the top. Well, actually not for first position, but for second position. MT Helmets moves ahead of Angelus MTA. So a poor couple of rounds there for the MTA team. Red Bull KTM IO move up ahead of 658 as well in that one, because a pretty decent result there from Onchu, and I think Rueda was also in the top 10, so a decent sum of points for those two riders. With that race done now then, let's head back to the career hub, see what we're going to get. Of course, we haven't completed any specific turning points this weekend, so there won't be anything special on that front, but we can see how much reputation we've got, and we'll also get to see some probably interesting social media messages. So we gained 1,850 reputation then, so we're pretty close to becoming a rising star rather than a newcomer. But here we are, we've got 2 messages on the social media, so let's have a look at the feed. So we've got one from Masia and one from Moreira. Of course, we battled with Moreira in the race, so it does make sense. So for Masia, once again, we will be nice to him. So he said, I feel like I'm on good form. I think at Mugello I can finish ahead of Biker. And I can say, I didn't think I needed another reason to do well, but after what you said, I'm looking forward to entering the track. So we'll say that again, improve his reputation, because again, we're just buttering up the Honda riders just to make sure that we do get the best upgrades possible. And also, we don't want the leaders to be aggressive with us. It doesn't matter if Ogden hates us, because hopefully we're never near him on track, but obviously Masia, Moreira, these are the kind of guys who are going to be battling week in, week out, so we don't want to annoy them unnecessarily. But Moreira then said, I knew that Biker would have attacked me at every turn, and luckily I finished the race in front. My entire team is satisfied, and we hope it will continue like this at Mugello as well. Well, you tell you what, Moreira, that is a nice comment. So, okay, so it didn't go well this weekend. We'll have to work harder to get out in front. So we will put that one, because of course we had a go at him right at the end there, but we did probably make a bit of a mistake. I think I pushed a bit too hard just to try and get onto the back of Holgado, because really I wanted to win. I didn't want second place. I know second place would have been better for me in the championship, and again it would be nice to get a good result, but I wanted to try and get our first win in the career mode, because I don't think it's ever been this long into a season before I've picked up a victory before, especially when you consider the debut season as well. So we're actually doing a lot of races without a win, but one will come surely. But I guess we'll have to see how the season pans out. But that pretty much does bring this episode to a close, so I hope you guys did enjoy that one. If you are new to the channel, please do like the video and subscribe. It really does help me out, and you'll be able to see plenty more MotoGP 23 content coming from here, because we're going to have career mode, we're going to have online videos, game experiments, lots of different stuff. So if you like MotoGP 23, this is definitely the place to be. But I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Hope you're all staying safe, and I shall see you in the next one.